The late writer, David Foster Wallace, gave an earth-shatteringly honest commencement speech to a class of Kenyon College seniors. In it, he starts by relaying an old fable. A school of young fish was swimming around gleefully in a river when an older fish swam by and asked, "Don't you know you're running around in water?" The school of fish looked quizzically at each other and then asked themselves and the older fish, "What is water?" Foster Wallace highlighted the significance of such a notion, stating that, quote, "The most obvious, ubiquitous, important realities are often the ones that are the hardest to see and talk about." The speech, like all commencement speeches, is an introspection meant to analyze that all-important event of taking the next step. In a number of ways, the ordinary events of our daily academic, athletic, and emotional lives have been the most formative of our young lives. Sitting in classrooms, running suicides on the basketball court, reading and discussing topics in the classroom. It's not until we look back, till we have brief suspended moments when we are above the water, do we see what we truly have been swimming in. We realize how strangely beautiful that water is, how wonderfully complex in its structure or lack of structure. We soon begin to find ourselves remembering the moments we were in that water, splashing around, and our everyday seems less ordinary and more important. We end up seeing our incremental changes from child to adult, our extraordinary transformations. You see, we wake up one day in our Western society expected to be upstanding young adults ready to take on higher education, and with that realization comes the fear. We find ourselves jettisoned from the river we knew and loved, forced to evolve, perhaps magically grow legs. It's these changes that are the most daunting. Perhaps our well-constructed skin, our perfectly assembled persona becomes constricting in an instant. Perhaps expectations from others, those looming parental or societal expectations, fail to correlate to our internal view of ourselves and who we would like to become. And with every moment when we're asked to picture ourselves in 10 or even scarier 20 years, the anxiety begins. Now, Wikipedia, the greatly reliable source, defines fear as, quote, "a distressing negative emotion induced by perceived threat." The maxims of fear for the American teenager and perhaps any child traveling towards adulthood are the fear of failing to meet external expectations and the fear of falling short of our own expectations. Now, to calm this fear, in order for us to overcome the stifling gut feeling of fear, move towards living our lives, we must accept that we are beautifully malleable individuals, and our high school years and the college years to come are our exploratory time. Now, freshmen, this may be utterly unbelievable to you, but your firmest beliefs about the world may change by the time you leave this place. Now, I know Justin Bieber is like the greatest artist ever, and perhaps Jersey Shore the greatest show on earth, but I promise you, you will grow old and you will be embarrassed by yourself. You will be surprised how much you have changed, that you can even change at all. I watched fellow senior Jack Foster morph from a relatively quiet freshman to a young man strong enough to voice his opinions in front of all 500 or so of the Shadyside community at Assembly. Or perhaps the notorious Frank Rocks, who, from one single angle submission, is now an expert on being a ladies' man. These moments are beautiful. These moments occur without us knowing. Our souls grow and stretch, and a wonderful academic institution like Shadyside Academy actively fosters such growth. Teachers like Mr. Ryland, who postulated that if you just keep doing, that something great is bound to happen. Or Mr. Nielsen, who understands the delicate rhetorical spin that can occur in the recounting of history. Dr. Satula, who frustratingly asked, "Why live?" to a class of 12 or so introduction to philosophy students, knowing well the question itself and the pursuit for the answer would permeate the days and years to come. Or Ms. Williams, informally encouraging us students to confide in her our concerns about our lives at SSA with regard to race, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, physical ability, and/or disability. Or Dr. Sanders, whose vivacious personality encouraged our own writer's voice in the writer's portfolio. These men and women have gracefully taken their role and guide without expecting praise and thanks. I take the moment right now to thank them and praise them now. I especially commend Mr. LaCase, who unfortunately is leaving us and making his own personal journey through education. We clap for him as well, and as for all the teachers in the school and the administration. So, the journey begins, a cacophony of noise as we step out to the unknown, and yet there exist individuals within our school, within our life, that lead us during our most unsure periods. Know, young fish, fearful of leaping out of the river to experience land, that your heart will always be true, and that the teachers here have led you on a path to formulate your own ideas. Trust in that guidance that has ultimately led you to who you are today. Fear of being wrong, of our own value system failing. I will not throw cliches about learning from one's mistakes being a valuable life lesson, because in truth, some mistakes can be rather painful. Trust in what you have done, what you have created for yourself in terms of friends. Trust that the college or university you have picked is the best for you, fits you at that moment in time. Trust that there will always be a time for readjustment, for a period of time of self-doubt and worry. Place yourself in instances in which your morals are challenged in a proactive and enlightening way. You have 4 more years to frolic in the freedom of collegiate bliss. Enjoy it, but never forget to look back on your memories of where you have come from. Fear, ultimately, is a physical response to stimuli, one that indicates danger, perhaps the danger of falling in love and having your heart torn to pieces, or the danger that the college major or life philosophy you have chosen may not be the right one. But what seems to be a common thread is that fear is always the indication that something absolutely extraordinary is yet to come. Fear may be our body's response to our heart swelling at such an opportunity. Perhaps the incessant voice in your head whispering, "Wait." We reach up to the sky, ready and perhaps justifiably afraid of that next step. Before Senior David Jimenez gets up to make a rebuttal speech in debate. Or Alex Coy or Shannon Kirk get ready for a performance, light shining upon their faces. Perhaps it is my friends, almost family that is chamber choir, before our own musical exploration, a group that has taught me that I truly love music and could not live without having it in my life, which for all 4 years was my schedule, and with this day has officially come to an end. But every shaking bone, every blood vessel, every part of me that worries and fears is placed on hold, on mute. And the show, well, it must go on. We must step forward and challenge our fears, dismantle them, or else we are doomed to live a life of regret. We are, class of 2011, on the precipice of something profoundly life-changing. Class of 2011, I challenge you to tread that ground and leave these gates, because the stars are our individual tables and the galaxy our feast. Thank you.